Good evening. Welcome to MGR Rovers Game Week 8. My name's Shaun. As ever, I'm joined with Phil and Nathan, and we're going to talk about everything that happened in the Premier League this weekend, including Arsenal's triumph, triumph win, Postecoglou getting sacked, Amrin's masterclass at Anfield. A lot to discuss, lots to go through. But yeah, good evening, chaps. How you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Really good. Really
Oh,
good.
where do we start? I guess we start with Saturday morning, the early kick-off. Forest at home to Chelsea, and comfortable 3-0 win for Chelsea. On the back of that, we had a manager sacked less than 10 minutes after the game. Yeah, we all predicted scores this week, as ever. And we score ourselves on how we get the results correct or incorrect. And Phil, you had Chelsea down for a 2-1 win.
Yeah.
Did you see the game? What do you think?
Well, I'll be honest, I think you're generous saying it was a comfortable 3-0 win. Talk about sliding doors moments. Forest, should have been 2, maybe even 3 up at half time. So
Okay.
I think if they'd have buried those 2 chances, Postecoglou might still have a job, mightn't he? So I think it's a ridiculous world we now watch in Premiership football, isn't it? To be honest, but no, in the end, it turned out to be comfortable. I think obviously those 2 goals in 2 minutes or 3 minutes at the start of the second half just effectively took the game from quite a close contest and probably slightly edging in Forest's favour to totally out of their hands. And they just had no answer, and that's probably why. Marinakis is quite an emotional guy, isn't he? And he's obviously knee-jerked off the back of it. But I'm not sure, well, whatever the rumours are, I'm not sure whether Sean Dyche is going to be a step forward for him, really. But yeah, it was, like I said, I would have said in the first half, anything but comfortable for Chelsea. I thought Forest played really, really well, to be honest. And actually, it looked like Postecoglou had really taken advantage of the international break and put some fire into the team. And they were looking really, really dangerous. And then, so that 2 or 3 minutes just took it all away from them, really. And they sort of just crumbled, and it looked quite comfortable second half for Chelsea in the end. Although probably, to be fair, you would probably lean towards saying, well, Maresca made those 3 substitutions. You could see it wasn't working. Fair play, I guess. That's what we were talking about the other week, wasn't it? Managers who can see something impact a game, which he clearly did. And yeah, it made all the difference. So yeah, I wouldn't have said come to a game of 2 halves probably, but to say I was shocked at the speed of the sacking, both strategically in terms of 39 days and tactically in terms of 19 minutes after the match. Sky was still on air, weren't they? I've never seen anything like it. But yeah, crazy. But Forest needs to do something. They're well towards the bottom of the table. Chelsea, I think we got Jekyll and Hyde Chelsea all in one game, didn't we? So yeah, it was a really, really good way to kick off the weekend. To be fair, really exciting game, and yeah, kept us glued right from the start. So yeah, really enjoyable start to it, and really yeah.
1 point for you, 2-1 prediction. Nathan, you had a 1-1 draw. Did you see much of the game?
I didn't see much of it. I did see the highlights. I think with Phil, I think it was a game of 2 halves, wasn't it? I think it's just a classic example of if you don't take your chances in the Premier League, you run the risk of getting on the other end of a hiding, and that's exactly what they did. I mean, Maresca obviously knew at half time it wasn't good enough, changed it up, 2 goals, sucker punch, and then obviously Forest heads go down, don't they? I think if you're a Forest fan, you're relieved at the fact that you've got rid of Postecoglou, because I don't think he was an appointment that they necessarily wanted straight away. I think that with Phil, like 19 minutes after the game, very similar to when Gerrard had his the final game at Villa against Fulham, he was sacked within half an hour after the game. So it's obviously a decision that Marinakis, and I think Postecoglou, I'm not saying he may have took him by surprise, but he'd have known that if he'd have lost that game, there was every chance he were going to go, but maybe just not as quick as literally before they've had a chance to do the post-match interviews. There's a couple of rumours going around that obviously Edu sort of looked, he knew, and then he sort of left, is it Yates, to do all the interviews, and he looked like really, so if you watch the interview, it's quite uncomfortable actually when you're watching it, and they're asking him all sorts of questions, and he's like, look, I found out at the same time as you guys when you brought the news. So it's a strange one, but no, for Forest, I think I'm with Phil again. I'm not sure what Sean Dyche offers you apart from sort of that sort of wanting to stay in the Premier League sort of mentality. And right now, I guess that they are in the bottom three, and they're not playing great, so they need some stability. He does bring that, but then this Forest team is more than capable of just fighting off a relegation scrap. They're going to be playing Porto away on Thursday. Sean Dyche, I don't think I've ever seen him. I don't know if he has been a European manager played. I don't know whether he took Burnley into the Europa one of the seasons, but yes, he could prove us all wrong, couldn't he? He could come in. He could get him. He could get him into fourth spot. But again, the positions he's finished in are like 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th. He's your man if you want to stay up, but I'm not sure whether it's the right appointment right yet. But it's a disappointing result for Forest, but it's a great result for Chelsea. So, but like I say, you just want to see that consistency for Chelsea to carry on pushing. Obviously, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Man City. So, yeah.
Yeah, Chelsea, it did turn comfortable in the end. Chelsea hovering around.
I'm surprised. The thing that surprised me with the Postecoglou thing is surely, and I get all the results coming in, surely even the most ardent Nottingham Forest fan, even last season, would have expected to struggle against Chelsea. Do you know what I mean? I know what you're saying there, like his job was on the line, but it's a bit like saying if they'd have played Man City at the Etihad, his job was on the line. Do you know what I mean? Like
they've won one game since the start of the season, though, haven't
well,
they?
I know that. I know that. I'm just saying, like, I'm not. You wouldn't ever have. You would. Well, none. I don't think any of us picked Forest to win that match.
No.
So to say his job was on the line if he didn't beat him, I don't think anybody expected
I
Forest to
think
win.
if he'd have got results before that, though, Phil, I don't think his job would have been on the line. If I'm being honest, I think
It
if
just
he'd have
makes the
been a winner,
timing
maybe.
weird, though, right? But it just makes the timing weird, though, because in that case, why not sack him at the start of the
That's the
international break?
argument. Don't wait. Maybe sack him before the game. I think a couple of Forest fans on sort of social media and on sort of the networks have said that. Don't wait. As much as obviously you want Postecoglou to lose your job literally 19 minutes after the game's finished, is like it's ruthless, isn't it? But that's one thing that Marinakis is. He's flamboyant. He's ruthless. He does what he wants. It's his club. He's paid the money. Postecoglou's not more. Was it £7 million? I've read that he's got for 39 days' work. It works out to about £1 million a match, I think.
It's
It's not
about
bad,
your
is it?
hourly rate, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I earn 2 million a match, so that's just a bit more. So, but no,
Overall,
it's
disappointing.
incredibly strange. Like straight after the game, he's very harsh, I think.
So what next for Forest then? Where do they go now then under Dyche? What's the plan? Is it purely survival now, or do they try push on into Europe? What's the plan for Sean Dyche if he comes in?
I think it's signals, isn't it? I think if you're a Forest fan, I think I'm not saying that Sean Dyche can't get you results. He's the man that you turn to when you are in the shit and you want to stay up. But for where we are in the season, we're not even in November. But I think Marinakis has probably just gone. If we carry on with Postecoglou, we could end up in a relic. Do I pull the plug now and then get someone else in? But to me, when you appoint a manager like Sean Dyche, you are literally saying we want to survive.
Yeah,
And
but that's it, isn't it? It's not whoever comes in with that remit. It's not enough this year because you've given Forest fans a taste of what could have been last season, and you're almost writing off. And I know what you're saying, Nate, about could Dyche do in the Euro? I don't think he can. I like Sean Dyche.
It remains to be seen, doesn't it? I think so.
It almost from the outside looking in, it looks like you're giving up on the Europa League, and even regardless of the results, I just think. I mean, what's done is done, isn't it? I suppose, but I just think Postecoglou should have had till January. I think because for me, anybody who watched that first half has got to admit there were signs that he was implementing something different. Like that first half was different to anything they played under Nuno. It was the first time they played anything like a Postecoglou team.
Betis. Did you see him play Betis in the Europa League? They played fantastic. I mean, I can't say I watched Forest too much, but I watched that game in that first half. They were fantastic. They were lucky not to have been in by more, but so there were signs. But it's just football is a results-based business, isn't it? And if you don't get the results, whether there is any effort there,
if Marinakis' brief is and that's the rumor, isn't it? At the moment, is that the brief is to completely change the style of play. You can't expect someone to change the whole style of play in 8 games. I mean, they put a graphic up on Sky earlier and something like showing the dates of Postecoglou's matches. I think he's had 3 days between every game since he came in, apart from the international break. So
maybe you knew that though, Phil. Maybe with Marinakis isn't backwards in coming forwards, is he? Like he's telling, look, this is what I want. If you don't do it, you're out the door.
In that case, you should have stuck with Nuno, shouldn't he?
Maybe, but then obviously when you publicly criticise the chairman in public, you're never going to survive, are you? Let's be honest.
No, but the rumour is he only did that because he found out he was looking for another manager behind his back, wasn't it? So
maybe, yeah, it is difficult because like, I think Simon Jordan made a valid point on Talksport today. He says like with Nuno, like if he wasn't Forest manager, he'd be exactly the manager they'd be looking for now, wouldn't they? So it's just, but you reap what you sow, in my opinion. Marin, stupid games, you win stupid prizes. You sack one of your best managers in the last 20 years. You're appointing with someone who the fans don't want, doesn't get the results, and you're the architect of your own downfall, really, in my opinion. But let's see what Dyche does. At the minute, everyone, if you're not a Forest fan, is saying the same thing. It's a strange appointment.
I think the scary thing if you're a Forest fan is we're sat here in October. You're almost at a point where you're going, well, we're writing the season off. Like you're almost at a point of going, like you said, Nate, survival's enough. And you know what? If we manage to rattle the sabre a little bit in the Europa League, that'd be great. But surviving the Premiership's based off last season,
it's disappointing.
And it's just and regardless of Nuno, whether he did it on purpose, it's all down to Marinakis, isn't it? Like mishandling the relationship with Nuno is the trigger for everything else.
Yeah.
It's just shit leadership, and I get it's his money and I get it's his train set, but it's just poor. And if you feel for those Forest fans who were literally, on sky high cloud nine Nirvana last season, and this season already looks like it's just a dismal, shitty, rainy day in Nottingham. Like it's just sad for them, really, because we all were so pleased to see Forest doing so well last season, everybody, and it's just a real shame that it looks like they don't have any of that this season.
For me, and I know he's not played much for your boys, I think losing Langer were difficult as well, because obviously him and Hudson-Odoi, down the wings, were very effective last season, and obviously they don't seem to have it down the right side now with the Langer. So obviously they sold him. They brought in some decent players. Chris Wood doesn't look like he's captured the form, but we were saying this before, a good striker year after year will keep producing 10, 15, 20 goals. You can't just have one good wonder season where you score 20 goals and then don't do it the next season to be classed as a good striker. So, I mean, he started on the bench yesterday, so obviously, it's not his fault that he couldn't make that much of an impact. But, you're looking on these players for Forest last year who were exceptional, and they're just not firing, are they? Whether it was the unrest with Nuno and then obviously Postecoglou trying to change the style, and now they're going to get Dyche ball now, aren't they? Long throw, Stoke City style.
How many Premier League teams have been using the long throw this year? The set pieces and the long throws this season have been ridiculous. Everybody's using the old Stoke tactics.
Spurs yesterday against us. Spurs literally all they did yesterday. We both agreed to towels as well because it were pissing down in rain. But I think Kevin Danso spent a good every throw in about 5 minutes polishing the ball before he threw it in, and not one of them were effective.
Honestly, it's getting down the route of the NFL, isn't it, with specialist teams just for long throws. Honestly, to us.
Well, let's move on from the Forest and Chelsea and let's go back into the 3 o'clocks. Disappointing one for me. Brighton 2, Newcastle 1. We all predicted a Brighton win. Yeah, my view was that it were poor. We looked leggy after the international break.
I think you predicted your boys to win, didn't you, Sean?
Yeah, I did. That's what I'm saying. We all predicted a Newcastle win.
No, you said Brighton.
We all predicted Newcastle.
Yeah, let's start again. I predicted a Newcastle win, but it wasn't. Yeah. Anyway, disappointing for me. We looked really leggy after the international break, which was a bit worrying. Looked tired.
You have been leggy though.
Sorry.
Could you have been leggy though? I know you had a few players.
No, we shouldn't really. That's what's worrying. Just looked tired.
Everybody was leggy. To be fair, there was a lot of play across the board this weekend.
I get that, but these are professional footballers, isn't they?
Excuse. I just think there was a lot of it around the Premiership this weekend, wasn't
there? Yeah. I think you're incredibly disappointed, aren't you, if you're a Newcastle fan? But Brighton's one of those teams, aren't they? On the day, they can beat anyone if they turn up. I think once you get back into it, when Voltemade does that, I mean, it's an amazing flick, isn't it?
Took his goal well, yeah.
It's brilliant. But I think is it the second goal for Welbeck? It's too easy, isn't it? I think
it's like He's always comes. It's like about Kirsty. He always comes back and scores against us. He does it. He does it at Brighton all the time. Three things are guaranteed in life: taxes, death, and Welbeck scoring at home against Newcastle. So, to be fair, he took his goals really well, especially the second one.
One
We
were a
we
bit
played a bit better
poor
in the second
defended
half.
wise.
We played better in the second half. We made some changes. We saw Murphy go off, come on for Ilanga. Again, Ilanga didn't look his best. And Barnes came on in the second half as well. It changed the game a little bit, but yeah, too little, too late for us.
That's the bit where it's
Phil, you had
frustrating,
it
isn't it?
2-0.
Yeah, I think that's the bit where it's frustrating, isn't it? It's the like the leggy bit. like you, like I say, there was a lot of it around the Premiership this weekend, and kind of it makes sense when you look at it from an attacking point of view. And people aren't the best, but I guess what the disappointing thing is the defensive shit. Newcastle looked so solid in defence all season. Even when they've just looked really, and Brighton still managed to create a lot of chances. And I know we've talked about it a lot on here, haven't we? Like Brighton have created chances in every single game they've
Yeah.
played. So I suppose that's a consistent theme. And I suppose in that regard, excuse me, Newcastle haven't done any worse than anybody else Brighton have faced. But yeah, I don't know. I thought Newcastle would have enough solidity at the back to see
They
it
were
out.
disappointing, weren't they? I think that's what they were. They were disappointing Newcastle. I think you
Yeah.
expected they were capable of so much more, and to obviously let Danny Welbeck score 2 goals against you. I'm not, there was talking about him getting England call up, but I'm not sure that's sort of where if we've failed as a nation if Danny Welbeck's our answer at 34-year-old. So, but it was a disappointing result, but it didn't surprise me that Brighton, because I think I said I did predict Newcastle to win, but it wouldn't surprise me if Brighton got a result.
Fair play to Brighton. They played well. They got 3 points, and yeah, disappointing for me. We move on to the next week for me. Put this one behind us.
You
Um,
can do.
yeah, luckily if we can. We then had Burnley at home against Leeds, and now, interestingly, we all sided with Leeds on this one. Nathan, you had
Yeah,
2-1. Phil, 2-1.
it's Nathan's nefarious influence and his family connections with the mob up here. He's talking us into supporting Leeds, honestly, and trying to. Well, we've had some saying that we're Leeds haters here. We're not Leeds haters at all, but no, I mean, I've said to Nathan's point with Nottingham Forest. I think again, it's a lesson, isn't it? And if you don't take your chances, you get punished. I think Leeds didn't play badly. In fact, Leeds played really well. Leeds, you probably watch the highlights. If you took the goals out of the highlights, you probably watch the highlights and say Leeds were the better team. You look at the stats, you see Leeds are the better team, and then you got one ridiculous. Well, and I know you said about the marking, or we've talked about the marking goal, but like one ridiculous, poorly placed pass out from the back from the goalkeeper puts them in trouble, and then a cracking hit from a guy from 25 yards. So but like Nate said with Forest, if you don't take your chances, you're gonna risk getting punished.
I watched the game, and it was one of them where I don't think Leeds particularly played that bad. I think they had more of the possession wise. They looked really good. They looked comfortable on the ball. Obviously Calvert-Lewin was a bit of an handful, but what they're missing, whereas Calvert-Lewin is good to obviously hold the ball up and be strong, they're missing that lethal finisher, aren't they? As well, I think Leeds. But trying to attract a 15 to 20 goal strike without paying top for the range money, you're not going to get it. But the pass from Kyle Walker was made out to be like world class. It was a good cross, but the defending, I think it was rolled on. He's in no man's land, and he heads the ball in, so it's incredibly disappointing. And then, like Phil says, this guy hits one with his left foot. His left foot, I think it's a good strike. So it's two contrasting goals, isn't it? One's very poor marking, and you 1-0 down. Then the next one's like a 15, 20-yard shot that the keeper can't save. So I wouldn't be too worried if I were Leeds United. They're still putting a good enough performance for me. It was just incredibly disappointing not to get, a 3 points from what you would class as your rival. I say rivals. The Leeds are on 8 points. I think Burnley are on 7 now, so they're very close in the table now. So it's one of them. If you're Burnley, you're really happy with that result. Scott Parker will be buzzing because it's obviously got Burnley sort of another a victory.
Well, they're out of the bottom three for the first time, aren't they?
Yeah, so that's always going to be a morale boost, isn't it? So, but yeah,
Burnley, I think.
you're disappointing as a Leeds fan, isn't it? You're disappointing because I think we predicted Leeds, didn't we? We thought that the form that Leeds were in and the performances that put in there, we're going to go to Burnley and get a result. So to come away with a 2-0 loss, is frustrating and disappointing. But again, you just have to put it behind you and go again next week. Sound like Steve Bruce, don't I?
Yeah, it is almost like the form book's out the window this season, apart from maybe Arsenal.
I think it was said a few times on the different commentaries, though, wasn't it? Like you do get a lot of this after the international break, though. It's almost like for almost everything, like form goes out the window for
Sort of
everything.
resets itself, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, because a bit like you was. Well, we'll come on to your Villa game in a little bit, Nate. But you were saying like the international break just dropped at the wrong time because it just disrupts rhythm, doesn't it? Everybody travels away. Everybody's playing a different style of football for international teams, and everyone's travelling back. And probably certainly some of the ones who went to play for South American teams, they're only getting back the day before the match. Like it's really just a challenging time, and it's one of those weekends after international break where you've just got to get a result. It doesn't really matter how you play. You've just got to get a result because so many teams are disrupted by the fact that all their squads just disappear. And to be honest, it's often the teams in the middle. I know this is going to sound a bit out, but who suffer the worst because the top teams, a lot of their international players are either sort of prime major South American teams, like Argentina and Brazil, or they're the European, the Spaniards, the French, the Germans. They're either not travelling very far or they're travelling together as a group. Whereas a lot of those mid-table teams, you've got literally just single players flitting off all across the world, haven't you? It's like really like
But
offshoot.
then you've got like you sort of a lot of teams as well that don't have as many internationals where they've not been affected by players traveling, so they've had the training sessions together and they've not had the lethargicness of obviously traveling and stuff like that. So I get what you're saying, but the international break for me is after you come back. It is a little bit dicey, and there's some I say strange results. Nothing surprises you in football. But I think so. If we were predicting this before the international break, like if we didn't have it, I think some of the results may have been a little bit different.
So yeah, absolutely. Well, talking of surprise results, there was a 6-goal thriller at Palace. Bournemouth
Game,
2-0 up
what
and
an
cruising.
absolute game!
What I would say is, if anybody's interested, you go back and watch our preview show before the weekend. I'm reasonably sure we all said anything could happen in that game. We weren't far off, were we? I mean, we didn't predict that, but I think we all said like anything could happen in that match. Like
Yeah,
we thought they
yeah.
might cancel each other out. In reality, in the end, they have cancelled each other out, but just with a lot more goals than we thought they might use to cancel each other out. I mean,
I think the other thing for me is like when if you're Bournemouth, I think you think you've won it in the 94th minute or whatever it is, and then obviously, but again you shut off for a second and you get done. You
A
know,
bit, yeah.
Mateta scores a. Did he get a hat trick, Mateta? So
sorry, actually, yeah.
he was unlucky not to get another couple, to be fair. But
He's a
it
good
was
striker. I told you before, I love him at Arsenal.
he's a very good striker, and obviously Bournemouth. It's a point on the road again that they're defying expectations again, losing the players, they're putting performances in. Like I said, they nearly win it. They nearly win it, didn't they? At the end,
They'll just be frustrated, won't they, by
yeah,
letting. If you're sat where Bournemouth were sat there with a 2-0 up, you have to feel like you let Palace back into the game. I get you're
yeah.
away from home. I get Palace are a good team. I get they fight to the end. But if you're 2-0 up, was it the 65th, if not later? You've got to feel like you've let that slip away.
It's
Yeah.
that when you get that when you're 2-0 up, isn't it? It's never a safe scoreline. It's always that if the opposite team get one, it either spurs you on to go and get another one, or you're a bit shaky and you let them back in, and that's obviously what happened. But Bournemouth obviously then clawed the way back to 3-2, and like you say, like I just said, you think you've won it, and then
It
you
was
got
almost like that. It was almost like it was a collective sigh of, "Oh, we managed to do it. We sorted it." And then while we were sighing, Crystal Palace like, "Nope, we're not done yet." All right,
Well,
oh,
two cracking teams. I think we've all got a lot of positive things to say about Bournemouth and Crystal Palace, haven't we? Like they're very well organised, very well coached. They've both coped really well with summer transfer windows that weren't that kind to them in terms of losing key players. And they're two teams that are showing that what with hard work and buying into what the manager's trying to do, you can achieve what you want in the Premiership.
I think Semenyo's absolutely tearing it up at the minute, isn't he, for Bournemouth? I think like the guy just looks electric.
He's just
It reminds me a little bit of Eze, to be fair. Like when he's down that left and how he's skipping through, he's
he's full of it, mate. He's full of
You'd be
confidence
worried
at
as
the
a
minute.
Bournemouth fan, though, wouldn't you? You'd be worried as a Bournemouth fan about January, wouldn't you? Like,
yeah,
Yeah, you really would.
he's obviously he's going to be sort of people are going to be circling around him. And then obviously Palace, Mateta, Gay, January.
I'm staggered that no one came in from Mateta in the summer. That for me, I just don't get it. I know we talked about it pre-season. I just how nobody came in from the top there.
Well, he's a France international as well now, isn't he? He made his debut for France, midweek, scored.
I think he's got everything, and I genuinely think. Now, to be fair, my Bolton man was hit the ground running, but I genuinely think he'd have been unbelievable at Newcastle. Like I say, you boys, anybody watching at home, you all know. Like I say, I'd chip in my own money to get to see Arsenal bring him to the Emirates. Do you know what I mean? It just, I think he's a fantastic striker. Really, really good. So yeah, cracking game.
Yeah, well, two of us predicted a score draw. Phil one apiece, me 2-2. Nathan, you had Palace down for a 2-1 win. So yeah, I think we're all expecting in the main goals there.
We predicted goals, didn't we?
We're a bit
Yeah,
tight,
yeah.
didn't we? Like we couldn't pick a great deal between them because they both had really good starts to the season. So
If Bournemouth can hang on to their collective group at the minute, where do we see them going this season? The way they're playing.
see, I still think that teams like Bournemouth, Brighton, Palace, I still think you've had an unbelievable season if you get 8th or 9th because I think almost off the top of your head we can list the 8 teams who we think should be above them.
Yeah.
And I know they can have these little patches of form and whatever else, but it's like, I just think there are 8 teams who are better than them. And so over a 38 game season, I think
Space, isn't it? I think you're looking at 7th. I think that's if you look at these teams to me. But that's what I'm saying is you sort of want to try and break into the Europa League. Champions League is dizzy heights, but you're looking and going, well, there's a conference spot. It's 7th. We think we're capable of getting 7th, and I think it turns into a battle between your teams like your Brightons, your Crystal Palaces, maybe your Bournemouth. It's that little sort of mini league going on.
See, I think if you could aim for it, you're almost getting this little niche group of clubs where the Palace blueprint from last season almost becomes the thing where you go, look, we're probably fighting out. We're probably fighting out for like between 8th and 12th of the Premier League. But if we can stay in the FA Cup long enough that the big boys are distracted by the Champions League, then we've got the chance of getting the FA Cup, like Palace did, and going, right, if you can get through those early rounds where the big boys are paying attention to the FA Cup, because the Champions League doesn't really ramp up, does it, until the knockout stage. So if you can get through those early rounds where the big boys are paying attention and then hope they get distracted by the Champions League or the Europa League, and then maybe you can have a run through the FA Cup and get a trophy that way, or or like Newcastle did with the Carabao last season. Maybe that's their sweet spot for these teams to try and get into Europe if they can't nudge that 7th place. But it's just unfortunately they're really good teams to watch, but they're never gonna, not never, because never's a long time. They just struggle to have the clout to compete for 38 games. I think. So
Guess time will tell. Guess time will tell. Well, Haaland against Everton 2-0. 2 solid goals again for the informed striker.
He's single-handedly dragging Man City back into a title race, isn't he? Like, how the fuck can you score 20 goals by October?
Yeah, ridiculous.
That's unbelievable, isn't it?
Unbelievable. Absolutely.
How do we stop him?
He looks like a man possessed. It was sort of what he either got very pissed off with having the piss taken out of him last season, or I don't know what's got into him, but he's just a man on fire at the minute, isn't he? He's absolutely
everything he touches. When you're in form, you're in form, and I think I predicted. Correct me if which one did I predict? A 3-0 for Man City because I predicted a very
in fact,
comfortable.
Nathan, you're the only one to get this score correct. 4 points for yourself, 2-0. Phil, you had 3-0, I had 3-1, so you're the first 4 points go to Nathan today.
But I think I said it was going to be very comfortable, and I think it was, to be fair. I think Everton, in the first half, they missed a chance when Ndiaye went through, and I think Beto stuck his leg out. If he'd have been 2 inches taller, even though he's already about 8 foot, he'd have maybe got the goal. But I think the marking for the header, and I think the second goal, Everton just didn't look the same without Jack Grealish, did they? He was on making.
They're always going to struggle. So much of what they've done in that first 7 games has come through Grealish's boots, and
this is what I'm saying.
It's a massive miss, wasn't it? A massive miss for them.
It was always going to be a tough ask for Everton, and you still can't argue with where Everton are at the minute compared to where they were last season. They're arguably in a better position, but obviously 2-0 against City, you wouldn't say it's horrific, but I think City would.
No one's really looking at the fixtures thinking Everton are getting points. Sorry, no one's going to commit to assuming Everton get points at the Etihad, are they? Like, you're just not.
I think Haaland at the minute for me He's obviously, we know how good he is. He's the most informed striker in the world at the minute. Everything he's touching, I agree with Phil's point that I think he's single handedly taking Man City up that table. He's keeping him in a title race because if the chances that he's putting away, if he doesn't take those chances, then City sort of maybe don't get as many points as what they are now. And I think we've got Man City next. I think Rodri's out again. So again, this is
next 2 games, haven't you?
Man City and Liverpool. So, but I think if you're Man City, you're just grateful that you've got Haaland literally on red hot form, because I don't think Man City have been brilliant. They've still got some world class players, and I still think there's more to come. But he's playing like out of his skin. We knew what he was capable of, but for where his goals are at the minute, for what he's done, it's phenomenal. It's he's unreal. The guy, he's just an absolute machine, and I can't. It's the highest compliment you can pay any sort of striker, is that he's absolutely world class and probably one of the best Premier League strikers that I've seen. Even this early stage.
It says everything, doesn't it? That I'm just double checking before I'm myself an idiot, but it says everything, doesn't it? That is it. City have got the most. City have got the highest goals for in the league, haven't they? I think I'm right in saying. And yeah, they've scored the highest goals scored in the league, and the only player who scored more than 1 goal for them is Haaland.
Yeah. But that tells you, doesn't it?
No other players scored more than a goal. Somebody single-handedly dragging them up the table. And do you know what? That's what you pay the big money for, isn't it? That's what you give them. That's what they give them a 9-year contract for.
Yeah. That's why you're on 400 grand a week.
And that's why, with the greatest will in the world to any personal acts you've got, Shaun, I said also, he's always been better than Isak. Anyone who thinks Isak's anyone near Haaland, just an idiot. Like, not even close. Not even close. And he's proven it. And maybe that's it. Maybe all the talk over the summer about Isak being such an unbelievable striker, maybe that's what's fired him up. And he's going, fuck off, it's my goal. I'm going to show you that I'm the best, and I'm going to show you that no one can even hang on my coattails. But like I say, to consider out of City's 17 goals, he's got 11, and no one else has scored more than 1. Unreal.
Yeah, massive start.
Unreal.
Massive start. So, let's move on from that anyway. We had Sunderland at home to Wolves. Sunderland 2, Wolves 0. Massive worry now for Wolves.
I think it's what we said.
No, I think I considered a draw. I think.
Did you go mentality? Did you?
So I had a 2-0 win for Sunderland, so I got 4 points on this one. Phil, you had 2-1. You wanted Wolves to score, and Nathan, you had a draw, 1 apiece. But yeah,
you keep saying it with Shaun. We keep saying it with Wolves, and take away my sort of Midlands rivalry with Wolves, as a neutral, they are serious trouble. I would be amazed if they're not relegated come May, the way they are. I mean, they've just given the manager seems to be struggling, even though they just give him a new deal. So it's one of those where I didn't watch the game. I'll be honest with you. I did sort of see that obviously Sunderland were, let's say, good value for the win, but they just they took the chances. And as a Sunderland fan, you can't ask for more where they are at the minute. They're outperforming Newcastle. They're higher in the table. They're the newly promoted club. It's a classic example, is it sometimes when you do get these newly promoted clubs that you've not played against for 3 or 4 years in the Premier League. They come up, you don't know too much about them. They've signed some decent players that we've never heard of, and then they're just getting results. They're grinding it out. But Wolves, you go into Sunderland and looking at trying to take the form away. They're a promoted club. You want to be trying to take points off them, but they're not doing anything, are they? Apart from that draw with Spurs, where they went 1-0 up, and there was to concede that late equaliser. They've absolutely nothing, and that for me is so disappointing. If you're a Wolves fan. And it stems down to the fact that we've said this week in, week out. If you sell your best players and do not replace them with like for like, then this is the situation you're going to find yourself in. And unfortunately, I think, even though I'm calling it now, they will be relegated. I would be amazed if we sort of touch back up in this in May and they've survived.
So they're only on 2 points.
I think they're relegated.
Yeah, 2 points all season for Wolves so far. None of the promoted Championship teams in that bottom 3 all picking up good points this season so far. So it is going to make the relegation battle this season, I think, really interesting, especially now that West Ham, Forest, we're only a 14th. Not that we're going to be involved in a relegation battle, but the bottom of the table is really interesting at the minute. Really interesting. So
Something that we wouldn't have predicted, was we, as before the season started, we all thought that the 3 promoted teams were a shoo-in to go straight back down. But how wrong we can be sometimes. I know Burnley and Leeds are sort of hovering a little bit above, but the fact that they're not in the bottom 3, they're not one promoted team in the bottom 3 at the minute, tells you that this
that
it's not that they don't deserve to be in the bottom 3, because you're bottom of the table for a reason. It's just, like you look at West Ham, they've been doing this for the last couple of years, isn't they? Where they've sort of got on that little bit of a slide. I know there's Nuno in place now, but how quickly can Nuno fix it? I mean, as we speak now, 1-0 down to Brentford, and Brentford ain't been much better have they this season? Let's be honest. So
really not.
it's
Really not. But yeah, good win for Sunderland. To be fair, in the end, 2-0, a solid
it's all you
performance.
can ask. And you win your own games. You try and not get beat away. That's your sort of motto, isn't it? When you're a promoted team, in my opinion, your home form is your main key. And is it Isidore, this guy who they've got, who seems to be decent sort of one for the FP of fantasy football. Someone that probably don't cost amazing, but still picking up points.
Yeah, good return.
Well, yeah.
Had a good return. Well, Phil, the Arsenal juggernaut keeps on rolling, and I don't say comfortable. I don't think Fulham did a lot wrong, to be fair. But again, set piece specialist this season. Trossard with a goal, 1-0. Nathan, you had 3-0. Phil, you had 2-0. I had 2-1. Do you want to talk us through this one, Phil? Are you dying to?
Well, yeah. Well, I think similar to what we said at Manchester City. I think about as regulation as it comes. To be honest, I think for those who haven't heard the stat, I think it was the second game running now that Arsenal have not conceded a goal, conceded a shot on target. We've not done that for 21 years since last time we won the title. In fact, and it says everything about just how strong our defence is, doesn't it? We were talking about how switch off for a moment in the Premier League and you can suffer, and we've gone 2 whole matches and not had a shot on target against us. So, the defence is looking rock solid. Fulham, even despite having a lively first 25, 30 minutes, you could argue they maybe had the better of the game, but they didn't create anything. A story of Arsenal season last season, and I think Arteta said it really well. People talk about the set piece specialist as if it's a bad thing, but I personally think it's a really, really good thing. If teams are going to come and sit with a low block and just defend and try and block you out, then we know we're going to have shots. We know there's going to be saves. There's going to be ricochets. There's going to be deflections. There's going to be tackles. We're going to be creating lots and lots of opportunities with corners. So why would we not be setting up to use them to score the goals? And I think Gyökeres didn't score, but another really, really good match again. Some really strong centre forward play. Saka, just particularly second half, terrorised that left back. We won't spend too long dwelling on the PGMOL robbing us of another penalty because they don't understand their own rules again. But it was a penalty for anybody who went through the actual laws of the game, if you want to follow them properly. So should have been 2-0, but I'll expect my donation of points, Sean, because it was technically correct. In fact, the VAR. But no, it was. You know what? It says everything that I watched that match on the weekend, and not a hint of worry, not a hint of concern. Never felt like we weren't going to.
I think the longer it went on, though, Phil, you're sort of going, is it going to be one of them?
You said it, but we scored it 56 minutes. Like it wasn't that long down the line. Do you know what I mean? I was more frustrated when he. I think I'm right in saying the substitution was Eze for Marino, and that I get. On one hand, in my head, I was like, right, I get why you've done it. Do you know what I mean? You make us even more defensively solid, and you may be looking for another header on the pitch because it looks like we're only going to get in through set pieces. And the flip side was like I was screaming, just push for the second goal. Like one goal is not enough. As much as we've got a good defence, obviously I'm probably still got the trauma of Szoboszlai's free kick against Liverpool. Like just get that second goal. But you know what? Like I say, Fulham for all they sort of battered at the door, they never really had an open opportunity at all. And I think I was kind of worried actually, because remember we had a chat on here, didn't we, about how well Kevin turned that game on its head when he came on as a substitute in the other match. So when he came on as a sub, I was literally head in hands. I was saying to my boy,
against Villa either, did nothing.
I was saying to my boy, I was like, I watched him turn a match in his head a month ago. So like, I was really worried whether he'd do the same again, but he didn't. You know, we marshalled him well. Everybody did their bit. Like I say, just completely defensively solid. Did exactly what he needed to do. Didn't look fluid after the international break, like we said. Put the pressure on Liverpool like we needed to. Responded to the fact that Man City had won earlier in the day, and just a really, really professional, measured, solid performance, really. And I'm happy using the set pieces. Like I say, if we know teams are going to sit deep, our problem in the past has been when teams sit deep, we can't unlock them. And you know, if set pieces are a way of unlocking that, then I'm happy to use that every time. At the end of the day, we're between, you look at Saka and you look at Declan. You know, we've got two of the best set piece dead ball deliverers in the country, if not potentially in the world at the minute. You know, in terms of how accurate they are, time and time again. So yeah, job done. Some nice assist points for Gabriel as well, which helped my fantasy football out, which was nice.
It was,
So
yeah.
Yeah, like I say, about regulation it comes.
The one thing I would say is for me is Trossard. I think he's incredibly underrated in my opinion in the Arsenal team. I know obviously we know what he's capable of. They paid big money for him from Brighton a couple of years back. But he just seems to have this knack, doesn't he? Like when you need a goal or when he just seems
Pops
to
up,
turn
doesn't
up. He's one of them for me, Trossard. You don't think he's brilliant, but then he does this little piece of skill, or he's in the right place at the right time. It gets you the goal. It's and he's obviously an asset to the Arsenal team, isn't he? So
Him and Martinelli both. You know, you look at them and you kind of look at them and you go, not sure they're a 90-minute player in a championship competing team, but they've both got that kind of Solskjaer type quality, where when they come on off the bench, you think either of them could get a goal in a heartbeat. Both Trossard and Martinelli, for very different reasons. Trossard's got that sort of guile that isn't necessarily forthcoming very easily, and Martinelli just got blistering pace. I mean, Martinelli probably should have scored. It was brilliant save by the keeper, to be fair, from that save. I think he saved the Gyökeres shot, and then Martinelli he saves the follow up. But yeah, no, it was like I say, and that's the other thing. Everyone's playing their part. We talked a minute ago about Haaland's ridiculous goal ratio for Manchester City. I think it's exactly the opposite. At Arsenal, you've got the goals are equally shared out across about 6 or 7 different players. In fact, I think they put a graphic up that was every single player in the Arsenal lineup had scored for Arsenal this season, apart from David Raya. So we've got goals from all across the pitch.
Yeah,
and I
you
think
want to see though, Phil, isn't it? It's a team effort, and I think this season Arteta at this minute in time as we speak seems to have got everything right. You're sitting at the top of the table. Obviously, the result we'll get onto it later, but obviously the Liverpool results helped. But they're doing everything right. But it's the sustainability now. Arteta knows what he needs to do. He knows that there's games last season where you drew or lost where you should have won. And this looks like a different animal, doesn't it? This season, it just looks like the difference is never a problem. It just looks like he's got every department nailed, and the way it's running, it's a well-oiled machine, and quite, Arsenal deserve to be top of the table because they've been brilliant so far. And
I think for us this season, I think you guys asked me before, and I think I've watched a fair bit of stuff this season now at different takes on what Arteta should and shouldn't do, and I think for us this season the aim's got to be this squad is good enough to be a 90+ point squad. I think we've got to be aiming to score north of 90 points over the season, and after that, whatever will be, and I say that because it hark back to obviously that amazing Liverpool team that scored 97 points and still lost to Manchester City. Do you know what I mean? When they obviously got over 97, over 100 that year, was that the Centurions year? But so for me, if Arsenal are getting north of 90 points, that'll be the highest ever points that we've got in the Premier League. This squad's definitely good enough to get 90 odd points in the league. And if someone else is good enough to get better than that, we'll hold our hands up at the end of the season and say that. But
doesn't seem like it at the minute, does it? I mean, it doesn't seem like there's anyone better than Arsenal. But it's still early, isn't it?
My concern probably at the moment is I do think Arne Slot's a really good match. We'll come on to Liverpool, I suppose. But if we go back to Manchester City, they're not playing well, but Haaland's keeping them right at the top of the table. And sooner or later, Manchester City's other players will click into gear. And kind of, your Peps of the world and your Alex Ferguson's of the world, they always say, don't they, all that matters is being in the top, being within touching distance in March. And then that's when the title's won, isn't it? If you're in touching distance in March, you can put that run together of the last 8, 9, 10 games where you win them all. That's where your titles are won and lost. And Manchester City know how to do that. Liverpool know how to do that. Arsenal don't know how to do that, and so for us, it's about while Manchester City aren't necessarily clicking, and Liverpool yet are not clicking, then we need to keep them under the pressure really all the way through the season, and hopefully grind our way to a result. But results like Saturday, it was very much like watching the Man United game at the start of the season. We didn't play very well. We weren't absolutely best, but we kept a clean sheet and scored the goal. And do you know what? That's all we need to do this season. That last season, that match was a draw, so that's 2 points better than we did last season from that
This
pitch.
is what I was saying though, Phil. It's games like Fulham last year where you sort of say struggle, where you didn't get the win, whereas this season you've ground out the result quite and deserved to win. But this is the difference. I think this is the difference in the Arsenal this year. Arteta knows now he's got every department nailed, and like I said to you earlier, you quite rightly sit at the top of the table because Arsenal have been fantastic so far this season. It's just the longevity now. You say you've got to go into the back end now and you're being hunted now, aren't you? You're not hunting someone down, and that's what you've got to try and sustain. And Arteta's been used to sort of trying to hunt teams down, just sort of falling short a little bit. But now I don't know, it's 3 points that you're clear at the minute, 3 or 4 points.
3 points clear of City, yeah.
Yeah. It's just one of those that you've just got to sustain it, keep winning, keep grinding results out, just making sure that you're better in or equal in City, Liverpool. That's how I look at it when you're sustaining it. You've got to do better or equal their sort of form. So, but yeah, fantastic from Arsenal this season.
Yeah, great result for Arsenal. They're looking that togetherness is there. They're looking really strong. Definitely seeing the team that are playing for each other and the manager. Yeah, I just don't see. I just don't see a drop off yet. There's nothing in any performance I've seen that feels like it's going to drop off. It just doesn't look like it.
And the scary thing is at the minute is that you actually look at our injured players who are yet to come back. And you're only going back less than 12 months, and Kai Havertz and Martin Odegaard, you said we'd fall apart without them, and they're both waiting to come back from injury. So as forgetting, we all forget now that we've still got Gabriel Jesus. I'm not sure whether he'll get much game time when he's fit or not, but he's another
player. Option though, isn't he, Phil? He's a different option.
He's another really good player who can come on. And sorry, I've completely, and even talking, I've forgotten the fact Madueke's injured as well. So you got four forward players who would probably get into
the depth that you've got now that you didn't have last season, in my opinion. I think that's what you're looking at. I mean, you've got 4 players injured, but it's not made any difference because you've got players that have come into the squad that are equally as good or even better than.
Well, that's it. That's the quality, isn't it? I was going to say the 4 players I've just mentioned there are injured. I reckon probably walk into 75% of the other Premier League teams. So. Yeah. It's not just the number of players we've got injured whilst we're still competing. It's the quality that we've got waiting to come back. Because any one of those 4, it's like a new signing when they come back from injury. So I think there's more to come from Arsenal as well, hopefully. So no, we're in a really good place. Let's not jinx it. We've done the job. We're top of the league. Let's be humble about it. We've got a long way to go yet. But do you know what? It's a brilliant start. So if you told me at the start of the season, having seen the fixture list, we've got 19 points from the first 24. I'd have snapped your hand off looking at our first 5 or 6 games. So yeah, good place.
Good place. Tottenham 1, Villa 2. Nathan, you must be ecstatic with that result. Great performance from Villa, from your boys.
What did we predict? I know I predicted a Villa win.
You predicted 1-0 though. That's unlucky. Phil, you had it at 2-2. But yeah, Nathan, talk us through it.
Well, what can I say? Apart from the sort of opening first 5 minutes where we shut off for the goal, I think we deserved it. I don't know if there's Tottenham fans are watching and go, well, we had more possession and we didn't do anything with it. It were very. I'm going to go back to the what we were saying, that it were very Spursy from Spurs. It was, and
We're nothing Spursy about that second goal that he scored though, were they?
So I'll get onto that in a minute, but just to talk it, this is going to sound a little bit sort of not arrogant, but I always thought that we were going to get back into the game. The way that Spurs they kept giving the ball away, they couldn't string passes together. They were trying the long throw, which wasn't working. And Morgan Rogers, he's not had the best start this season. He sort of picked his form up for England. He got an assist the other, I think it was against Burnley, and then he just unleashes his 25-yard rocket and the keeper is no man's land. And whether the keeper is in sight of it or not, he's not stopping it. The dip, it was fantastic. So that obviously builds the momentum up for Villa going into the second half. And then the second half, it was the same again. Spurs come out a little bit of huff and puff, but nothing that were going to scare us. And then what can you say about the second goal? I mean, as a team goal, it is literally, and I
That
mean, I'm going to
pass.
nick a little bit from Shea, given what he did on Match of the Day. But you actually see when Matty Cash gets the ball, you see John McGinn like point to send it back to Henry Martinez, and then he just unleashes this kiss of the season at the minute. I mean, I don't think. I mean, we could do, but at this minute, you are not going to find a better pass at the minute than that. That pass, the zip, the ping, the accuracy, and then. I think the pass is almost the flick is almost as good as the pass from Luca Dean, how he flicks it past and then he gives it to Buendia, and then literally just I think the marking's a bit poor from Spurs. He just has chance to run through into the 12-yard area and the 6-yard and just roll the ball in with his left foot. But what an absolutely fantastic goal that is from Villa. And it's another one, isn't it, where we've had a really, really poor start to the season, but we've won 5 in a row now. We're just starting to get the old Villa back. What I always said, and I've said this, I know what my team is capable of, and that's it. Buendia coming back into the fold is a massive plus, considering the players that we've lost through PSR and the players that we couldn't sign. Buendia just looks like a different animal this season. He went on loan last season to Bayer Leverkusen. I can't say he did too much. He had a bad injury the season before, but he's just come back into this. Unai Emery said to him, "Look, if you're going to come back into this team, you need to show me why you deserve it." And I think he scored against Feyenoord in the Europa League last week or the week before. He just looks brilliant, and Watkins came on. I think changed the game. I think Marlin sort of got outdone by Van der Ven, but Van der Ven's a very quick defender. So Watkins came in for the last half an hour. I thought he was brilliant, but one of the man of the matches for me was Amadou Onana. I think he was fantastic. All 6'6" of him in that. He were just winning the balls in the middle. He were fantastic, but an absolutely brilliant performance from Villa. Like we sort of let Tottenham attack us, but we hit them on the press, and we looked more dangerous than them. So it wasn't a surprise to me that we got the 3 points, but. We do have 2 incredibly tough games now. We've got Man City at home. Well, before that, we go ahead Eagles on Thursday in the Europa League. Then we play Man City at home, and then the following week we then play Maccabi Tel Aviv, and then we play Liverpool. So it is like a busy couple of weeks for any team competing in Europe. But with 2 incredibly tough fixtures. Now, before a ball was kicked against Spurs, I probably would have said 4 points out of 9 would have been acceptable. We've already got 3. So I think if we do have a good record against Man City at home. We beat them last season, so let's see. So, but no, I'm incredibly pleased where the reaction that Unai Emery's got from his Villa players. So yeah, a fantastic win for Villa. So really happy.
Right, well, let's move on to the big game yesterday afternoon. Liverpool, Man United. We all predicted a Liverpool win. But Harry Maguire
Whole
came up and
world
spoiled it
predicted
for us, didn't
Liverpool
he, at
Would
the
you not
end?
say though it wouldn't surprise us if Man
No,
United got the
we did.
win
Yeah,
though,
to be
Sean?
fair,
I'm
we did
pretty
call
sure
it.
we
We did.
all 3 of us said that.
We all 3 of us did say that, but we all chose to go with the Liverpool result. So maybe his head's beating his heart there with that one. But yeah, Nathan, you had 2-0 Liverpool. Phil, you had 3-1 Liverpool, and I had 2-1 Liverpool. But yeah, Cameron's probably saved his skin with that result a little bit, maybe, but definitely bought himself some time. That's 2 on bounce for him, first time this season, and I think it's Man United's first win at Anfield in what 9 years? It's ridiculous.
2016 since Rooney scored, I believe.
So yeah, where do we start with this one, Phil?
We'll start with just. Do you know what it was? Well, I'll start with a stat that you'll enjoy, Sean. Harry Maguire has scored at Anfield before Isak. So there's a stat I'm sure you'll enjoy hearing as a Newcastle fan. Yeah, just live. Do you know what? Man United were organised. They were structured. I think it's been said a few times, so I'll copy it. That it suits Man United to play as the underdog. I think it's why they do so well against so many of the top teams, because they like it when the opposition teams come at them. I think it was interesting to see how much long ball Man United played, and they clearly set up to win the second ball rather than to win and push on. But I think, as much as well organised as United were, I do think Liverpool made it really easy for them. Like
Yeah.
the defending for that first goal was awful. Like Mbeumo just
Should they
wasn't.
have stopped the game though, Phil? Sean, with the
So,
injury to McAllister.
so
It says
well,
he
I
didn't
think the
see it,
referee
didn't
said
it?
he didn't see it. The referee said he didn't see it, didn't it? For me, it's a difficult one because it's his own player who does it to him, and it's Van Dijk who does it to him.
But do the rules not stay though? I don't know whether players feign injury or not. That
Yeah, but the ref's got to see it,
the
haven't they? And I do believe the refs on the ref's mic and the ref cam. The ref tells Stock about he didn't see it, and Stock. It's not.
linesman can see it though, can't he? He could signal to the ref.
It's true. So I think it's one of those where it's a bit like when your team concedes a corner and then the replay shows that it came off the attacker in it. Like it's frustrating, but Liverpool had plenty of chance to stop that goal without what. Because one thing that I would say, and I'm sorry. So let's start with it. Yes, you should stop the game for head injury, 100%. But I do think when you watch the replay, not a single Liverpool player notices that McAllister's down. So it's not like the Liverpool players stopped because they saw McAllister down. So they all knew, well, they didn't. They all carried on playing because they didn't realise McAllister was down. So it's not like, Liverpool players were there with their arms up going, stop the game, and like stop running. They were all running because they thought the play was carrying on. So Liverpool should have had enough to stop that goal. Both Canate and Van Dijk were ahead of Mbeumo when they started running. It was a bit like, and I sat here and felt it myself the other week when Haaland's goal against Arsenal. When Gabriel when he just outruns Gabriel, and he's like, just why aren't you running faster? It was the same for me with Van Dijk and Canate. Like either of them could have run quicker and probably cleared that ball, and then we're not talking about it. And so I do think if the ref saw it, he should have stopped it. But I don't think any Liverpool players saw it either. So I don't think I don't think there's any reason Liverpool got to complain because they didn't.
Well,
They
did
didn't.
you see the picture of Slotty were pointing to the head, wouldn't he? When he called.
Yeah, but if that ball gets cleared, or the pass is mishit, or when Liverpool don't even say a thing. I don't think it's only because it's an excuse as to why the goal shouldn't have stood. But it's not. It didn't affect the goal. Do you know what I mean? Like if Van Dijk or Canai had paused because of the fact that they saw McAllister down, you go, do you know what? The Liverpool players stopped, so you should have stopped the game. But they didn't. They carried on playing. So by the letter of the law, he should have stopped it. But I don't think that's the reason the goal goes in. And I don't think. I don't think they've got a great deal to complain about. But no different for us than me mentioned the fact that Saka's penalty should have been a penalty by the letter of the law, but we'll return it. So. I just think overall Liverpool didn't do enough. Like
It's a good finish by Mbeumo, though, isn't it? It's a very good finish.
They never got the ball. Van Dijk and Canate are both quick enough. If they sprint, what it was is minute number 1, they were just a bit slow off the mark, and Mbeumo wanted it more. And I think Liverpool looked, for all they looked controlled last season, they looked completely out of control yesterday. They looked just. I mean, the second goal is just an absolute piss take. How can you have 3 Manchester United players unmarked on the back post? And when you watch the replays, you see all the Liverpool players are fucked off like they're running off the pitch. And I don't mind so much, but the ball is clearly bouncing out towards Bruno Fernandes. And they're all still running up the pitch. And you're like, what are you doing? The ball's going to an opposing player who's ready to cross the ball. Even if you haven't hit it first time, he was ready to control the ball and cross it. And you're all running out the box. And you weren't running out the box to keep a high line. You were running out the box because you thought you were going to counter-attack. So just really shit defending from Liverpool on both goals. I mean, but flip it the other way, they could have scored 6. Like they hit the post 4 times.
I'm just going to say that they hit the post a few times, Liverpool. I think what I would.
How missed that header? How did he miss that header at the end? Does it make it 2-2? Did you see the match?
Yeah,
It's 5 yards out unmarked, and he somehow managed to head it wide. It's just awful. Like Gakpo should have had a hat-trick.
I think what you've got to look at from the other side, though, from a Man United perspective, is the fact that they do concede that equalising the 70th minute. So you do think, everyone, if you even probably Man United fans think, oh, here we go, we're gonna end up losing this game, and they didn't. To be fair, and this is one of the games where they hit Liverpool with the sucker punch, don't they? It's late into the game. Maguire gets that header in, but it's incredibly poor marking from Liverpool. But for a Man United perspective, like you're absolutely buzzing. You've got your first win at Anfield since 2016. And sound like a bit of a sort of a damper of it. I do think it is still papering over the cracks from the Amorim era, if I'm being honest. But it was a good. It's something for a Man United fan or Man United to build on. I think.
I think what Man United fans need to realise is, because it's some ridiculous shit today, honestly, like they're back in the title race and all.
Stupid tweets.
Man United
They're on
fans,
13 points now, aren't they? So they whether regardless of whether we think that they're not, at the minute they are still literally 5 points
that,
from.
that Man United performance was a performance of a mid-table team going to a top team. They turned up, they sat deep, they played the long ball, they stayed organised, and they took their chances. But Liverpool missed enough chances to have won that game 5-2, and it was a case of, in my opinion, Liverpool being sloppy off the back of the international break, and Man United being organised off the back of the international break, and that's it. Like, you would have expected that. You wouldn't have been shocked at that Man United performance from Brentford or from Everton or anybody else like that going to Anfield. It wasn't the performance of a top team. It wasn't the performance of a team back in the title race. It wasn't the performance of Manchester United of old coming back to life. It was an organised, well-drilled, mid-table team going to a top team, and a top team missing a shitload of chances that should have scored. That's the story of that match, really.
Yeah, but I think Man United can only carry on winning, can't they? That's the only way.
They can only do what they can do, but in terms of saying they're backing anything, it's nonsense. Like,
No, I don't think they're backing anything, but I think obviously where you're looking at the table at the minute, Man United are ahead of Villa, they're ahead of Newcastle. So they're on 13. Is it 13 points that they're on?
Yeah, but they're behind Sunderland.
It's by a point though, isn't it, or 2 points? It's not a lot.
But for those Man United fans tweeting they're back in the race, would you say Sunderland are in the title race?
No, I'm not. No, I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying even though I think it is over the Amorim sort of era, I think that it is something to build on. It's a positive, isn't it? And that's what you look at. So the fact that you've got and Buemo, I mean, he needs to start delivering after the money that they've paid for him. So it's a great goal by him, and Buemo. It's a confidence booster to Harry Maguire.
you know what? I like Harry Maguire. Harry Maguire takes so much fucking stick, and it's not his.
And it's a way to answer his critics, isn't it? So
not his fault he's slow, and it's not his fault he's got a forehead bigger than mine.
It's a good finish, though, isn't it? It's a good finish.
He's putting himself in the right place, though, doesn't he? Apart from the headlines, when he's in them.
He's got good attitude. He's a good professional, and he turns up and does his job. He can't do any more, and I think he just gets sometimes hammered with a stick just because he's not the shiny new toy, is he? He's just he's a lad from Sheffield who rocks up and does his job and he's not shiny and he's not new and he's not Euro and he's not this and he's not, but he does his job and he does his job well. And you can't deny how many goals he scored for Man United in the last 12 months in the last couple of minutes when they do stick him up there to cause mischief.
Are you concerned as a Liverpool? If you're a Liverpool fan, Phil, Sean, do you think you're not won for 5 games now?
I think it'd be more. I'd be more frustrated. I'd just be frustrated, especially with the defensive frailties as well. That defense just looks, when it's tested, Konate and Van Dijk. To your point, just don't seem to be putting the full shift in sometimes. Like, there's been times where I've seen them where they're just not tracking back correctly or not busting a gut to get back. That'd frustrate me as a Liverpool fan.
Anybody who's ever claimed Van Dijk is one of the best centre backs the Premier League's ever seen needs to go and look in the mirror, right, and realise this is how shit he is. Honestly, he's not a patch on Gabriel, not a patch on Saliba, not a patch on any decent, not a patch on
Harry Maguire.
It's just not. It's just not good. Like, honestly, he's just not been tested in the past few years.
Is it his centre back partnership, you think? But saying that, Konate and Van Dijk were solid last year, weren't they? To be fair,
but that was last year. So this is the knock on to balance, isn't it? So last year they'd experienced solid Premier League fullbacks either side of them.
But I was just going to say that one thing I've noticed is that obviously now Trent's not there. I don't think Trent was particularly a brilliant defender, but what he was a great attacker, bringing balls in, set piece taker, and he linked up very well with Salah, didn't he? I think, and I don't think you've quite seen that with Bradley or Frimpong. And we've discussed it before with Kirkes at the back. We don't think he's quite ready to make that step to a big team.
And to be fair to Van Dijk, I suppose my little previous tirade, I just get irritated when people rant about Van Dijk. But like, part of the reason he's getting dragged out of shape is because Kirkes is so shit. Like Van Dijk has to keep drifting across because Kirkes keeps getting beaten easily on the overlap.
But
So
I think it doesn't matter how good your team is, and as good as Liverpool were last season. And again, they deserve to win the league. I think if you change too much in a short space of time, sometimes it can be too much, if that makes sense. So, like, you're trying to integrate 5 or 6 players that have cost mega money into a team that probably you'd argue that they didn't need that many, that money spending. They had players capable in the team and the squad already, but it's just a classic example. If even you can see it, a world class club like Liverpool, you can spend all the money in the world, but if you can't integrate yourself into that team or you can't get that rhythm, you go through these patches now where you've not won for 5 games. And last season, or if you'd have said at the start of the season, Liverpool won, we get to October and Liverpool will be winless in 5 games, you'd have laughed, wouldn't you? Because you've gone, no way, not with the money that they've spent, the players there. But this is football, isn't it? It's crazy. I think Kirkes needs to get up to standards quickly, otherwise he's going to be out of the team. Obviously, keeps playing him because he's cost a lot of money. He sees him as the first choice left back. But I think Robertson's a safer bet because he's played with Van Dijk. He knows what to expect from him. Obviously, the hole that Trent's left is difficult. Frimpong, we thought we were going to come in and be decent. He's been injured, but he's not been great. Connor Bradley's still a young lad, isn't he? Ekitike should have started instead of Isak, in my opinion, because Ekitike's been in form. But
he's
again,
almost in Amorim territory, isn't he? Where he's almost picking a team that he wants to play well, rather than picking the team that would play well today. So to your point, Nate, you're absolutely right. If you're going to pick the team to actually play well today, you'd start Robertson. You'd even think about dropping Salah because he's not playing very well at the minute. I mean, he said a lot, didn't it, that you need a goal and you sub Salah off. Like, who would have predicted that last season? But you're right, and he tried to. And if you were Ekitike, you'd be well pissed off because you'd be like, I get
he's in form, isn't he? He's the most formed player of the Liverpool team at the minute. So, but the argument is
Jamie Carragher agreed
£1,000,000.
Well, yeah, Jamie Carragher agreed with what we were saying earlier tonight. He was like, he wasn't a fan of the Isak signing because he didn't get why they'd done it. And I don't think we talked about at the time. I don't get why they did it. Once you signed Ekitike,
because we can. That's what that is.
That's where it's, to your point, Nate, about too many players and too much change. How the heck are you going to keep Ekitike and Isak happy? Because Isak now is trying to get up to speed, and as much as we don't like him, Sean, Isak's trying to get up to speed, knowing that if he hasn't scored by the 50th or 60th minute, he's going to get hooked and Ekitike is going to come on. And Ekitike is getting pissed off. He's like, hang on a minute, I'm in form, I'm scoring, there's nothing more I can do. He's still dropping me for that guy. Well, what you're basically telling me is, I'm the number 2, because even though I'm playing better than him, you're starting me on the bench. So what you're telling me is, it doesn't matter how good I am, how good my form is, how well I'm playing, you're still going to put him in ahead of me because he costs more money. And it was just weird. As soon as they paid is it 88 million for Ekitike? As soon as they paid that,
90 million, yeah.
As soon as they paid that, why the hell did you carry on pursuing Isak? Or if you were going to carry on pursuing Isak, why the hell did you pay 88 million quid for Ekitike? It was just stupid. And the reason it was even more stupid was because if you wanted Isak, what you should have done is let Ekitike go to Newcastle 2 months earlier, sign Isak 2 months earlier, and give him pre-season.
Yeah.
But by stealing Ekitike off Newcastle in the first place and then dragging the Isak thing out, you've now got 2 potentially pissed off strikers, one who missed out on pre-season, and for what? Like, neither of them is as good as Haaland in the first place, and all that's happened now is it's a nightmare because you can't get them both in a team. So I think we talked about a few weeks ago, didn't we? Like, you guys asked me why I was all right biased, but why I was confident saying I think Arsenal will win the league. And I think I said to you, it's the amount of change at Liverpool. So much change, so many new players to bed in and egos to manage. And let's be fair as well, because they're human beings. A number of people who've known Jota for a long time must be still dealing with the fact that one of your best mates died. Hard thing to take.
Yeah, I get that. He brought a lot to that team, didn't he, Jota? He was a bit, to me, I think Jota, God rest his soul, was a bit like Trossard. He had that knack in him to get a goal. He was in the right place at the right time. He was a very good player. So yeah, maybe there is that, but you're going to have to try and get past that, though, aren't you? You're going to have to try. Unfortunately, football is a results-based industry, and when you're not performing, That's what you're
Yeah.
judged on.
You,
That's
I get that, but we're talking here, I guess, as to why we think Liverpool are struggling, and I do think, if we're all sat in our 20s and one of our best mates drops dead,
yeah, I get that.
of course
It's,
it affects you. And so if they're dealing with that, they're dealing with all these new players. Bearing in mind, got some of these new players, they don't get that. So you got the older players who are dealing with the fact that Jota's gone. You've got the newer players who are going, well, I don't really get it. Why aren't we playing? Why aren't we gelling? You've got positional issues in the first place. You've got Slot trying to force players in because they cost a lot of money rather than because they're playing for form. And the whole thing just
Alisson's injured as well, isn't he? The new keeper.
And again, I think Alisson probably saved the first goal. So you got all that mess of change going on, and obviously the spotlight of, well, you're the champions now. Why aren't you winning? Because in theory, and that's to some degree partly victims of their own success, because by beating Newcastle the way they beat Newcastle, by beating Arsenal the way they beat Arsenal, everyone had already built this narrative of, oh, well, Liverpool's going to win the league again, aren't they? Because they're playing shit and they're still winning. Well, they're not playing any worse today than in 5 games. They've not got lucky and won the match. Whereas the first 6 games, they did get lucky against Newcastle. Newcastle outplayed them with 10 men. They got away with a few in the first few matches. They've not got away with them. I think a few of us said at the time, they can't get away with this forever. Either they're going to have to start clicking and winning through playing well, or they're going to start suffering because they can't keep winning in the 90-something minute. And what's happened is they've stopped winning in the 90-something minute. And, I think they've got, Newcastle and Liverpool for both of you. It's a big Champions League match this week, isn't it? Because they're both Champions League matches that Liverpool and Newcastle should win this week. And they both really need to win them to get back to winning ways for the Premier League at the weekend. And I think, although I say it's a tough couple of matches for Villa, and I think it is a tough couple of matches for Villa. I won't be keen as a Liverpool fan to play Villa at the minute. When the man have come back into form, I'll be like, why couldn't we have played Villa 4 weeks ago when they were shit?
We got turned over very easy at Anfield last season, but this season's a new one.
You can't think that way, can you?
But we've got every chance of going there and getting the result out of. It's against Man City. I'm confident against any team because I know what we're capable of. But it's Saturday night. It's 8:00 kickoff. Does the occasion get the better of us? Yeah.
8:00 on a Saturday.
It was the same last year because I went. So.
But so no, I think Liverpool have got a lot of work to do. I think they've got a lot of work. I think because although City's players look flat, like I said, Haaland's just the man possessed, but Liverpool haven't got that at the minute. They look disjointed, and for whatever reason, he's insisting on starting Isak over Ekitike. Well, and to be fair, I suppose you can see the really hopes Isak's going to get match fit, but play Ekitike. He's in, like I said, mate, he's the man in form. Play Ekitike from the start, and then move him out to the left, take Gakpo off, and put.
Is there a way that you could integrate them together, though? If you're a Liverpool fan, could you go like the old classic 4-4-2 sort of type?
I don't. I'm not
4-4-2 these days, do they? Nobody wants it.
Don't know enough. I don't know enough of well, clearly, because we're not. I don't know enough about high level management. So what does that do to the rest of his system? I don't know what. I'm not a Liverpool fan, so I don't really know what Slot's trying to achieve from the kickoff. So to comment on what that would do to the rest of what they're trying to do. I mean, because the short answer is, well, of course you can play 4-4-2, but will it work? I don't know. But I just think having both of them was a strange decision because they both want to be the number one striker. And you can't have two number one strikers. One of them needs to be the number one striker. Alan Shearer and Chris Sutton. Everyone knew Alan Shearer was the main goal scorer. Yes, Sutton was key to the partnership, but everyone knew Shearer was the man. So you get that in most partnerships, don't you? Like any partnership you think of, you know who's dominant and who's in support. Like who's the leader and who's the supporter in any partnership. And it's just a strange one. And then obviously you've got the fact that Salah's not performing. Still,
and that's a biggie for me, isn't it? Salah's the guy who consistently, since he's signed for Liverpool, has been that constant, hasn't he? And he's dragged them through performances. He's got goals. He just doesn't look like the Salah of what's expected of him or what we know he's capable of. And that's not saying that he won't improve his performances. We're still a long way to go, and I don't think Liverpool are out of the title race by any stretch of the imagination. It's difficult now when you've lost 5, you've got to change that mentality. And it's mad to say as a Liverpool, because Liverpool have been so good, but the fact is you've not won for 5 games, and Slot's not been used to that as a Liverpool manager. And I think I said this last week. It's how he reacts. It's how any good manager reacts, because it's all right when you're getting the plaudits and a tune out of your team. It's when you're not getting a tune out of your team is how the manager gets the most out of his players. So obviously they've obviously got the Champions League this week. So that's
It's not easy though, is it? They've got just have a look there. They've got Eintracht Frankfurt away. Like it's not.
and
It's not
they're a
an
decent
ideal match.
outfit, are they? And if they lose that, then that becomes 6 games, and Villa were the same. They started the season. When you don't win, it's hard to try and get on there. You just got to try and grind that result up. They're still in the race. And there's still a long time to go, but it's just a test of Slot. It's a test of his management now. Let's see what he can do in the next few games.
All the time will tell. We'll discuss our predictions for the next week's show in another show. But there was a small amount of the Monday Night Football tonight.
It's finished.
The West Ham wars continue. 2-0. Brentford won away. And again, we all put down the West Ham. Oh no, we didn't. So Nathan, you had it 1-0 West Ham. Phil, you had it 2-1 West Ham, and I had it a score draw, 1 apiece. But yeah, Brentford come away with 3 points.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't have a lot to reflect back on
because
it was live tonight. But yeah, any quick thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'll jump in on this one. I've just been watching it. I think Brentford are the better team throughout it. I think it's disappointing. I think West Ham fans are walking out after 70 minutes. It showed you a picture of Sullivan just looking bemused and deflated. I think at the minute, it doesn't matter what he tries, nothing seems to work. And again, I know we're only a couple of games into the Nuno regime. And again, it's like trying to adapt his style onto a West Ham team that have been struggling all season. I do believe, Nuno is probably the right man for the job, but I just don't think the players are good enough. Or a lot of them at West Ham, they're on massive money and they're just not performing, are they? And when you're looking at that as a West Ham fan, you're incredibly disappointed because the chairman's going, well, I've give you the money, I've give you the players, I've give you the manager. What more can I do? It's really hard because obviously Sullivan gets a lot of critics. There's protests outside the stadium every time they want the manager changing and stuff like that. So he gives the fans what they want, but then you just like sometimes that don't always work. And we're seeing that with West Ham at the minute. They just can't seem to make it work. It's just really frustrated. And I've got a friend who's a West Ham fan. I'm sure he's bemused as to obviously why where they are, considering only 3 seasons ago they were the conference. Was it 3 seasons? They were conference champions. They won in Europe, and you've gone from that now to being in the bottom 3 and looking like you can't get a win from loving the money. So it's a good win for. I think a win that Brentford needed because obviously they're lurking close, to the bottom of the table. But what it boils down to is 2 poor teams going at it. It's just that Brentford probably managed to get the better of them. So, but Nuno needs to change it, and he needs to change it quick because otherwise he's going to end up with with his other former team in the Championship with Wolves. So he needs to be really careful.
Yeah, it's. I'm surprised that West Ham didn't show more tonight. To be honest, I thought. Well, as I said on the preview, I thought they might step up and be a bit more comfortable tonight. So, yeah, a lot of work for them.
You look at your own games where you want to try and build the atmosphere and get results, and they just didn't deliver again tonight.
Yeah, there's a fair bit of work for Nuno to do, I think, there to try and turn it around, really. So, yeah, it's tough times for West Ham.
West Ham,
but really, again, nice to see a new manager doing well for Brentford. They've accommodated. We talked, didn't we? They've been decimated over the transfer window, and they seem to have coped with it. Look, you've lost your manager, you've lost your captain, you've lost your two star forward players, having lost your other star forward player in the previous transfer window. So the fact that they're going in there, I think that 10 points from his first 8 games. I mean, you're not saying the world of, but that's a solid start for a brand new manager. That's a good result away from home. It was a challenge tonight because of the fact that it's Nuno's first home game and you were expecting that bounce.
Well, they were deserved the win tonight, Brentford. I think it probably could have been a few more. But
Yeah, they've done really well.
Was there some sort of fan protest tonight as well? At the West Ham.
Well, this is what I was just saying. It's like the protest, and I get it because obviously I've been there as a Villa fan, where you don't think the ownership are doing everything. But from a neutral, like he spent money, whether he spent it badly or not, it remains to be seen. But he's given managers what they want. He's give the sporting directors the money and the ammunition to give them what they need, and it just still doesn't work. They've tried managers that have won titles. They've tried up and coming managers. They've tried steady managers. I don't know what the answer is at the minute for West Ham. I genuinely don't know.
Any thoughts, Phil?
I think Nuno's going to have an effect. I do. I think Nuno will have him. But again, we're talking. He's only been there 5 minutes, hasn't he? And I do think we're all so keen to see an immediate story or an immediate change or immediate impact. Like it's just hard and harder to get a couple of games. He's got work to do. I think it's probably it's the summary you'd go with, isn't it? He's got.
He knows that, Phil. I'm sure. When he took that over, he knows that he needs to fix it. But it does again a bit like the Postecoglou. Does it happen in 2 weeks? No, it doesn't.
No.
It takes time to integrate your style into a team.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. It needs a bit of time, and I think that I think it's interesting. We've all said before, like West Ham fans don't tend to be massively patient. They probably need to get their head around being more patient, I think, and more understanding, really.
It's going to be a lot.
It's going to take time. They're not in a good place, and the players are not in a good place, and he's got to get them there. And the fans, it's all right having these protests and all that other shit, but they've got to go on that journey with the players, haven't they? We said the week, we're meant to be supportive. We're meant to be supporters. You're meant to support your club, support the players, support the team, and you can be me. You can be disenchanted, but for me, protests on game days are not the right way to go about protesting. I think, or I think we've talked about before that the best form of protest, in my opinion, is the one we read about, we talked about. I think we mentioned before we went live on these shows, but it was one from Germany, wasn't it, where the fans all went, and at the end of the game they just refused to leave. Just sit. Because the club then have to pay a fortune in extra policemen, extra stewards, captain, because they're not allowed to forcibly remove them. So all turn up, support your team, get behind them, give them the atmosphere, and then just refuse to leave the stadium. That's the best protest. Do that. Because turn on the players and upsetting the players when you're supposed to support your club. I'm not a fan of that in any way, shape, or form. I don't think it's poor. That is why at the minute I don't think great fans. Because I just think it's bad. I just think it's poor. How can you say you're in it together? All this bullshit. We're in it together. You should consider what we think. Our views matter. Why do your views matter if you're going to turn the club every time you happen? If you're a supporter, support the club. The chairman's a human being, the manager's a human being, the players are human beings. If you think your feelings should be considered, why shouldn't their feelings be considered? And why are you trying to help them get the club out of the problem? Because the players haven't become players.
I get that, but I think the frustration will come from West Ham fans is that they've seen, the standard of football slip slowly. It's not improving.
I would argue that that's their fault. They demanded David Moyes got sacked. Why? He won them the first trophy they've won in years. And I mean, you probably know better than we do, Sean. I mean, I would imagine you're going to be very, very forgiving of Eddie Howe for a long time to come because he won you that Carabao Cup.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where was that loyalty from West Ham fans, David Moyes? So I would argue it's West Ham fans' own fault for West Ham not first because you sacked your manager who won the trophy. Why?
Yeah, be careful what you whisper in that answer, really.
And it's not like the football's better today than it was under David Moyes. So why were you so desperate to sack him?
I get that. I don't disagree. I think it's be careful what you wish for, isn't it? So, but I'll just go back to my point. I'll repeat myself. Nothing seems to work at West Ham at the minute.
Oh. Anyway, well, that's all the results from this weekend's football. Scores on the doors for this week. Nathan, 6 points. Phil, 5. And me, top this week with 8 points. I'll take that. Overall, that takes Nathan, 43 points. Phil, 52. And me, closely behind on 50. Phil, you're in the lead still. Close.
Just about barely, because it was a shocking week this week, I think.
Yeah, it was. It's not great, but yeah. And obviously, guys, if you like what we do, if you like listening to us ramble on about our predictions and our reviews, make sure you like and subscribe. We'll be back again towards the end of the week with our prediction show as usual. Probably uploading Friday morning, hopefully this time. But from us three, it's good night, and we'll catch you next time, guys. Thanks for watching. Phil, thank you. Nathan, thank you. See you next week.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Guys.